Welcome back to the channel. This is the Action Figure Grader coming back to you to talk about the vintage collection. I know a lot of you are really excited about the Cantina Back the Bar, and we missed last week because I was out of town, so I wanted to kind of catch up on things and show you some Instagram projections from an account that I like to follow and I've talked about in the past. But first of all, it was nice to see that while I was away, Hasbro announced Mamal Nadon, or Hammerhead if you want to talk dirty to me. And apparently he's going to be joining the Episode 4 Han Solo, Tatooine Luke, Chewbacca, which apparently is a partially new sculpt, and then Obi-Wan. So it looks like Hasbro's doing their part to try and pump up sales for the Cantina. I still have no idea why they're not letting it run through the SDCC, but that's what they decided to do. And it'll be interesting to see what the final figure looks like once it gets out of the pipeline and we start to see some actual look at the figure. And, you know, for Hasbro, they can reuse that, right? There probably will be a Book of Boba Fett mayor, and who knows what else. I feel like, wasn't there in the expanded universe a Jedi that was also one of these Hammerhead type aliens? I don't know if that's just bad memory or what, but I don't know if that figure or that character ever appeared in canon, but I vaguely remember some Dark Horse comics with a Hammerhead Jedi on the cover, so maybe they could do an expanded universe to even use the sculpt even more. So we'll see. I thought that was interesting. Here is a Cantina update from Haslab. This is as of June 28th. I'm filming this a little early because I'm trying to play catch up on recent sales for the vintage collection, which we'll get to in a second. But as you can see here, we're at about 6,200 backers. The target's 8,000. Funding ends in 10 days, 9 hours as of the making of this video. And as I like to talk about, Riv's Junctionite, who is an account on Instagram that I follow, he kind of put together a new update as to where he think the total backers are going to be. And he looked at the Rancor that obviously failed, the Ghost, and the Razor Crest. And the Razor Crest obviously had a huge backing, you know, even into the doldrums. The chart doesn't really match well with everything else. And he seems to think that it's going to beat the Ghost in terms of final total backers, but it's not going to approach anywhere near the Razor Crest, which makes sense. And here's some other comments that he had. Make sure to go follow him on Instagram, Riv's Junctionite. He said, this was a big week for the Cantina. Officially at the halfway point, the Cantina campaign is doing well. And he's tracking just the backers during the doldrums days, kind of those middle days where there's not a lot of additional backers. And he said the Razor Crest outperforms everything else by a wide margin, but the Cantina was keeping up with the Ghost for most of the time. And then on Doldrum Day 8, it brought a big surge of backers that shot the Cantina ahead of the Ghost. And he thinks it's because it was opened up for international markets. Orders outside of the U.S. were being manually added. So that seemed to help things a lot. He says, the Cantina's doing great. I've modeled the outcome in several different ways this week, and my projections are showing around 12,800 backers. So he doesn't think that there'll be a huge surge at the end because of the price point. The price point is a lot higher than maybe some of the other different projects, both Star Wars and non-Star Wars. He was talking about Giant Man earlier on. He says Giant Man was a lot cheaper, so I'm not going to use them as a really good comparable. But he thinks that it's unlikely that they get anything past Greedo, but the 12,000 projection, you know, basically guarantees will unlock Greedo, obviously. The other two are not likely. And he also, this was an interesting comment, which I tend to kind of agree with, but he says, some have wondered where all the backers are. They're here. This is it. Hasbro's told us for years that playsets aren't as popular as vehicles as it relates to Haslabs. And the collecting community is deeply divided in the things it wants. The Cantina is an item with a narrow appeal, but collectors that want this piece and are willing to pay the asking price seem to have enough numbers to get the job done. So that's interesting. I just thought that we would do a quick update, and I'm sure that next week, if not sooner, I'll have an even more up-to-date kind of information. This chart that he showed is, again, just the Doldrums days. And you can see there that he expects it to do much better than the Ghost, not nearly as well as the Razor Crest. And that's probably about where it's going to go, just because of the figures that are involved as pack-ins. I think that really does help a lot. Okay, so let's take a look at both graded and ungraded items that have sold here recently. We had a VC34 Jango Fett that sold for $125.22. That was an unpunched US card and about in line with market. Very clean example. Nothing too crazy there. I just thought I'd give you another update because I know some of you had been waiting for the Jango Fett, and then once you saw it was deluxe packaging, you decided to go ahead and get the first issue example of Jango Fett, and its holding's pretty steady right around that $125 price point. I thought this was a pretty good deal. This is the reissue Ahsoka, signed by Ashley Eckstein, and it did have the JSA certificate. And as a reminder, if you buy one like this, where the JSA certificate is in here, and you want to get it graded for whatever reason, you can just send that JSA certificate in to CAS, and they'll do their Yellow Signature Series grading, and you won't have to pay the JSA authentication fee for the autograph a second time, since it's already been authenticated. You would just pay the grading fee for the actual mint-on card. But I thought $125 was a pretty good deal there. I mean, you know, that's a pretty fair deal for the reissue. Obviously, it'd probably be a little bit more expensive if it was on the original issue, but that's a good way to get her autograph on an Ahsoka action figure. All right, now here's an interesting one. This was the SDCC box set. It was listed for $1,400. Best offer accepted was $1,300. But I would be a little hesitant to drop $1,300 based on this description. It says the Revenge of the Jedi figure set includes a Jedi action figure and various mixed lot items made of very high quality plastic materials. So, does it include everything that's in the original SDCC box set or not? It's very vague the way it's written. This is almost written like with AI, which eBay does allow you to use artificial intelligence. Outer box shows light creasing, whatever. But to me, if it actually did include all the original items for $1,300, which again was the best offer accepted, that's a good deal. But I'd be a little hesitant to do that if I didn't ask that seller for more information. He does have 100% positive feedback with over 100 transactions. So if you happen to be the person that bought that, let us know if you actually received this box and it included all the original, you know, Mouse Droid, Salacious Crumb, and all the Revenge of the Jedi mint-on cards. But $1,300 would be a pretty good deal relative to past sales. Speaking of, here is the Return of the Jedi, not the Revenge, for R2-D2 on the sail barge, unpunched US card. That one sold for $110. And then here was a Revenge of the Jedi VC64 Princess Leia in her slave outfit. This one did have the paperwork inside, so it's either missing the offer sticker or it was removed. I tend to think it was removed. Right to the left of the belly button, there looks like there might be some litho tears there. But that was a punched US example, sold for $219.50. Interesting sale there, just given that the sticker was probably removed on that one, if I had to guess. The Sand Trooper, 2 different sales for that one, both unpunched. Here was one that was a buy it now for $160, and then another one went in an auction for even more. So that's interesting that this one continues to hold its value for the Dirty Paint Apps VC112 version of the Sand Trooper, $177.50, and then a buy it now unpunched for the same item for $160. So that one really continues to hold its value and is very sought after by collectors. Some graded items. We had a UKG 85% special action figure set for the Hoth Rebels, Han Solo, the Hoth Rebel Soldier, and FX7 in that box set, again, graded by UKG 85%. I think I included this one in a What to Buy video, and it sold for 51 pounds plus shipping. So even shipping to the US was 30 bucks. You could have gotten that for roughly about 95 bucks, and that's already graded by UKG. That was a good deal there. Some other recent releases that were all fairly high grade at auction here was Luke Skywalker Jedi Academy from the Book of Boba Fett. Kind of a goofy card art, if you ask me, but this one apparently is pretty sought after since this one was an uncirculated 9.0 and sold for $112.50. We had Ahsoka Tano on the Ahsoka card back in an uncirculated 9.0. That one sold for 78 bucks, so not much there on that one. I don't know why. I mean, to me, I really like this card back a lot with Rosario Dawson. And I just think it's a really nice looking figure that really captures the figure itself with the face technology. I think it's a really great representation of her. But the Ahsoka series and some of the other recent series just have not hit with collectors, and the prices reflect that, although there are some exceptions here and there. This one was an AFA 9.5 for General Arasandula, and this one obviously went for a lot of money, $152.59. AFA 9.5, very difficult to get a 9.5 with AFA, and that's on the modern scale, obviously. But I like that card back. You know, lots of purple going on, but a pretty good card back there, and it's certainly a great representation of the actress. Here was the Dr. Aphra SDCC Special Action Figure 3-pack with her 2 droids. This one was rated AFA 85+. It was listed for $250, and there was a best offer accepted on it. I tried to look it up, what it sold for on 130point.com, but I could not get it to pull up to save my life. But I'm guessing 200 to 225, somewhere in that ballpark. But it was an AFA 85+ for a very nice looking 3-pack. I really like that 3-pack a lot. Unpunched example. Some other TVC 1.0s. We had Grand Moff Tarkin graded 8.5. That one sold in an auction for $157 and change, which that's a pretty good deal. You know, that's a pretty good deal for an unpunched US card, given that this one ungraded can go for about that same price. Likewise, here was Starkiller Vader's Apprentice on the original VC 100 with the Darth Maul offer sticker, again graded 8.5 on the modern scale from AFA. That one sold for $106.50. Really good deal on that one. And, you know, again, I think for these modern items, 8.5 is not that desirable, so I can see why it went so low. But, you know, this is about what they go for ungraded, and to get one already graded 8.5 at $106.50 with free shipping as well, that was a really good deal there. Some other recent releases, we had the Han Solo Endor uncirculated 9.0. That one sold for $35. $35 on that one. Now, admittedly, this seller had a number of different ones going at auction, and this one maybe just fell under the radar, but you can't even get it graded for that. $35 plus $10.80 shipping. So not much demand for Han Solo Endor. But here was the Han Solo inside that bunker from the same scene with the 40th anniversary Return of the Jedi logo, uncirculated 9.0. That one sold for $71, and that, to me, is a much better figure, much better card back. But interesting that it sold for almost double what the Han Solo Endor sold for. Next up was Nien Nunb, the re-release, Nien Nunb, in an uncirculated 9.0. That one sold for $71. So again, nothing crazy, but I just wanted to show you that if you like to get these recent releases already graded, there are some really good deals out there from this seller and others. Here was an uncirculated 9.25 Fennec Shan, which, in my opinion, from 2022, this was one of my favorites from the vintage collection. I just love this card back. I thought that the actual likeness of her was great. That one also sold for $71. $71. What a great deal on that one. This was a big surprise on the upper end of the scale, but maybe it shouldn't be, because this was the N1 Starfighter pack-in for the Mandalorian, graded 9.0 uncirculated. So this seller, Disruptor, who is a trusted seller and, in full disclosure, is also a channel supporter, a Patreon supporter. So I've bought from this seller before, and he always has really nice high-grade items. He apparently sent in the entire N1 Starfighter and just had the Mandalorian graded. So this is VC 292. So he had that one just graded out of the Starfighter package. So a little bit tougher to get that one uncirculated, and you can understand why somebody was willing to pay up for that one, for the uncirculated designation. That one did sell at $250 plus shipping. Another one that you have, I don't think I've seen graded yet, is the pack-in for the Book of Boba Fett Jabba's Throne Room. And this is obviously the Tatooine Bib Fortuna, Fat Bib Fortuna. Graded AFA 8.5, Throne Room exclusive. So I think that one is the first one I've seen AFA graded, and it did sell for $160. So pretty interesting sales price on that one. Some other big-time items. I think I had both of these next to in my What to Buy video a week or two ago. This was the uncirculated 8.5 Slave 1 re-release, and that one did sell for $450 plus $14.50 shipping. Great deal on that one, if you ask me, just given how expensive it is to grade this one. And this goes for what, you know, $125, $150, maybe less if you find it on discount somewhere. But that was a really good deal, I thought, for an uncirculated 8.5 Slave 1. And then finally was the big boy, again, another one I had in my What to Buy video. This is the Canadian VC20 unpunched Yoda with the multi-language name pill as well as the alternate image card back. Probably the holy grail for the vintage collection. And remember this time last year, or maybe a year and a half ago, when this one was selling for $2,800? How times have changed. This was an AFA 9.0, and it sold for $1,250, less than half of the market peak for this VC20 Canadian Yoda. Absolutely insane how much that one has dropped. But in all fairness, it's still probably the most expensive retail release vintage collection mint on card there is. And, you know, whether this one goes back up or not, I don't know. But $1,250 is certainly a lot more palatable on the budget than $2,800, which is where this one was a year and a half ago. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this look at the Haslab Cantina. Maybe some of the projections from our friend over on Instagram, as well as some recent sales. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll be back soon.